Welcome to What Happened After the British Empire Collapsed. Part 1. The Empire that Ruled the World and Why It Fell. At its peak, the British Empire ruled over a quarter of the world's landmass and people. It was an unparalleled force. Imagine a map where nearly every continent bore the stamp of the British crown, covering an area so vast, it covered roughly 25% of the Earth. But today, almost every one of those territories, from India to Kenya, Canada to Australia, is an independent nation. So what happened? And more importantly, what happened to the world after this massive global system finally came to an end? For centuries, Britain exercised a staggering level of global dominance. Let's look at the sheer scale of this empire. It wasn't just about land. It was dominance in global trade, military power across every ocean, and political influence that shaped international law. The famous phrase, "the sun never sets on the British Empire," was literally true. There was always a corner of the world under its control. This wasn't just an empire among others. For a long period, Britain's empire was the global system itself, defining commerce, borders, and power structures. So how did this colossal global system finally collapse? There were several powerful, interconnected forces at work. The two world wars, though victorious for Britain, fatally drained its treasury. The sheer economic cost weakened the ability to maintain global authority. Simultaneously, movements demanding self-rule were gaining strength in the colonies. Leaders in India, Africa, and Asia were successfully mobilizing populations. External pressure from new global superpowers, particularly the United States and the Soviet Union, strongly opposed European colonialism. Ultimately, the vast financial and military cost of maintaining control became entirely unsustainable for a weakened post-war Britain. By 1945, Britain didn't lose the empire in battle, it simply lost the ability to maintain it. The age of decolonization began. The independence of India and Pakistan in 1947 was the critical turning point, a clear sign that the system was breaking down. This created a powerful domino effect. Once one major colony gained independence, the rest quickly followed suit across Asia and Africa in the 1950s and 60s. But independence didn't automatically mean stability for many of these new nations. Watch as the map rapidly transforms, country by country, as the age of empire ends and the modern world map emerges. In many places, independence was just the beginning of profound struggles with border disputes, civil wars, and economic challenges. Welcome back. We're diving into the dramatic and often painful aftermath of decolonization. In this second part of our series, we examine the monumental costs of freedom and the challenges faced by newly independent nations. The narrative of independence is inspiring, but for millions, it was immediately followed by conflict, instability, and economic struggle. One of the most immediate and tragic consequences of the British withdrawal was the partition of India. The focus here is the wrenching creation of two separate countries, India and Pakistan. Borders were hastily drawn by British officials, often along religious divisions, ignoring local knowledge and geographical realities. The impact was catastrophic. Mass migration, unspeakable violence, and the creation of a long-term geopolitical rivalry that persists to this day. The end of empire created new nations, but also new conflicts. Beyond partition, many newly independent countries struggled with the fundamentals of self-governance. Many countries lacked strong, unified governments, a stable economy, or a cohesive national identity after decades of colonial rule. The result was often political instability, leading to military coups, civil wars, and a breakdown of the political structure. Empires don't prepare colonies to function independently, they prepare them to be controlled. The political challenges were often inseparable from a difficult economic reality. The colonial system structured these economies to export raw materials for the benefit of the imperial power, leaving few local industries or manufacturing capabilities. After independence, these weak single commodity economies were highly vulnerable and dependent on volatile global markets. This introduced a critical concept. Political independence didn't always mean economic independence. Even after the flags changed, the influence of the former colonial powers and the Western world did not disappear. It simply changed form, often through trade agreements, multinational corporations, and global finance, creating a new form of economic control. This period of struggle led directly into the next major geopolitical shift. As Britain and other European empires stepped back, a power vacuum opened on the global stage. This vacuum was quickly filled by two competing superpowers, plunging the world into the era of the Cold War. We'll explore that monumental conflict next time. Welcome back to Part 3, The World After Empire. We've watched the British Empire rise and then dramatically collapse. But what happened next? The end of the empire wasn't a sudden silence. It was a global reverberation that set the stage for the modern world. As newly independent nations emerged, they were immediately thrust into a volatile global environment. The power vacuum left by the British Empire was filled almost instantly, changing the dynamics of international relations forever. The most immediate consequence was the rise of two global giants, the United States and the Soviet Union. The world didn't become free. It became divided in a new way. The Cold War dynamic, the intense ideological and geopolitical rivalry between the US and the USSR, became the defining feature of the post-imperial world. This tension dictated much of global politics for the next 4 decades. For newly independent countries in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean, this was not a peaceful welcome. They were immediately pressured, forced to choose a side, capitalism or communism, or attempt the difficult path of neutrality. This pressure led to a powerful counter-movement, the non-aligned movement. These nations, led by figures like Nehru and Tito, sought to forge their own destiny, refusing to be pawns in the superpower games. Their refusal to choose sides was a profound act of sovereignty. Beyond the Cold War, the collapse of empire catalyzed the creation of a fundamentally new global system. This shift was institutional, centered around a body created to prevent the very conflicts colonialism had caused. The United Nations saw massive expansion. With the wave of decolonization, its membership swelled from its original 51 states to nearly 200, making it truly a global organization and giving new weight to global cooperation. The core principle of the UN, the sovereign equality of states, meant that former colonies now had a voice in global politics, an equal vote to their former masters, shifting the power dynamics on the world stage. But the fall of the empire didn't erase its imprint. In fact, many of the structures we take for granted today are direct legacies of British rule. Perhaps the most obvious legacy is the English language itself. From India to Nigeria to Canada, it remains a common language of business, diplomacy, and increasingly, the internet. Furthermore, systems of governance, parliamentary structures, common law, and legal frameworks were widely adopted and adapted by newly independent nations, shaping their political development. This complex reality means that even after the formal political empire ended, its influence, cultural, economic, and institutional, didn't simply vanish. It embedded itself into the fabric of these new nations. This leads us to a profound and complex question. Did the empire really end, or did it just transform? What did the transition from empire to commonwealth really mean? The political control certainly ended, but the intricate web of influence, economic ties, cultural relationships, and even strategic alliances persisted, ensuring that the former colonial power remained deeply linked to its former territories. As we look at globalization and modern trade, it becomes clear that empires don't just disappear. They evolve, transforming overt political rule into subtler forms of economic and cultural power that define the modern world. So let's take one last step back and synthesize everything we've covered in this series. What is the ultimate takeaway from the dissolution of this colossal empire? The fall of the British Empire didn't just create a bunch of new countries. It fundamentally created the modern world, a world defined by superpower rivalry, international organizations, and the enduring legacies of colonialism. Every border conflict, every global economic system, and every major international institution today is, in some way, a direct result of the chaos and creativity that followed the collapse of the world's largest empire. Today's borders, conflicts, and global systems are all in some way shaped by what happened after the empire fell. It's a powerful lesson in history's long shadow. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into history. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more updates and explorations of global history.